Rob Tell on the track. Hop in the whip and I hit these switches. See that chrome suspension. Look at the car, you know who did it. I don't have to mention. They know it's Alex from Hoppos. Custom work come from Hoppos. I'm Rob Tell of 504. For anybody that gotta know, Alex stay with fresh content and he keep it coming like a slideshow. Never cut corners.
Aren't you glad you guys don't have Vic as your intro every single time? Because he's just sitting there picking his muckles. What's up, guys? Alex here from Hoppos with another video for you guys. Today we have a project. It got delivered to us about 4 or 5 days ago. We're gonna get onto it today. I had to make some room onto the table. We had to knock out some other stuff right before this, but we are gonna be working on welding up some brackets on a Curry shortened rear end. If I'm not mistaken, I believe this is the Curry Fab 9. I'm not too sure. I'm not too sure of the names of the part numbers, but it is one sick rear end. So the way you see it, this is the way it got delivered from our customer. We're gonna be getting this thing up on the table, get it all jigged up, get the correct angles and measurements, and we're gonna get the rear lower brackets, which were supplied by Curry as well, which made it real nice. There you guys go. Curry. And as a lot of you guys know, I always recommend the Curry rear ends. Now this ain't no sponsor video or nothing like that, which we actually don't even carry the Curry rear ends here. It's just, if you guys go back in a few videos, actually a while back, I talked about doing installs on rear ends and people sitting there with their foot on the axle shaft, cutting with a die grinder, shortening them. Don't do that. You guys wonder why you guys have problems. That was Vic back there. You guys wonder why you guys have problems with axles popping out and vibration and stuff not engaging properly. That is why. Stop being cheap about it. Spend the extra money, go with the Curry rear end. Again, this is not a sponsored ad or nothing like that. It's just, I've used them, I've installed them, I've had nothing but good luck and success with them, and they are designed and built. We're gonna get this guy up on the table real quick. We're gonna set up the jig table real quick as well, and we're gonna get all the measurements off of it so we can make sure we get these lower brackets in place properly. Then we'll get center line and get the wishbone bracket on there real quick. This right here is a jig that we made up a while back. This is strictly for 59 to 64 rear end brackets. It has the correct angle on it with the brackets. These are normally the brackets that we have to build to put them onto the rear end, but being that Curry supplied the ones that are already done, it makes life a lot easier. The only thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go get a stock rear end real quick just to check the measurements and the kickback of the actual bracket, because the brackets actually do not sit perfectly straight up and down. They actually have a little angle slight back. So I'm gonna go get all the measurements and degrees off of that to see how far. That way I could get that dialed in exactly to stock spec on the Curry rear end. I'm gonna head over to our junkyard real quick and we'll grab a stock and poly rear end, and I'm gonna bring it over here. Made over to our junkyard section. Found me a stock and poly rear end right here with stock brackets. So we're gonna get the measurements and specs off of this guy. I designed this thing to help me out, because normally when I was doing this, back in the day, I was doing it by myself. So it was really hard to get this lined up with the bolts, hold it up there, and this was designed to work with either a stripped housing, just like this one, or a complete rear end. So the way I did it is I just made it with some air cylinders, so it could help me hold it up just like that. So I just did it like that, just to make it easier, so I could, adjust it. So actually bring me to spec right here. This is all lined up to factory hole. So I did it really just to help me lift it, as I could slide the bolts through by myself. At the same time it holds position, so it works great. So the way I'm going to do this is because both housings have completely different shapes. This one's completely rounded, nothing really get a true measurement off of. That one over there. Pretty much the easiest way to do this is you have two ways. Get your degree off of here, off the flat face of where the third member mounts to, or you can get it off of the bolt holes here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to get a measurement of the degrees from my flat table to here to see how much it's kicked, because then again the top is already mounted. So once I get the degree that it changes or pitches here, I'll match it over to that one as well. So pretty simple. I can go get my degree finder real quick, see where it's sitting at, then that'll tell me where this is sitting at. So I'm gonna do that because again, the housing over there is like squared, boxed off. This one's rounded. That one, the Curry rear end shorted. This one's stock length. The flanges on the edges are completely different as well. So again, there's two ways. Mounting holes, which those ones have it, but the flange is different. or get the degree off of the flat face here. So to me, that's the easiest. I'm gonna do it that way. So I'm gonna go get my degree finder and we'll be back. So of course, when I wanna find my digital degree finder, it's nowhere to be found. So I'm gonna have to go back old school, and we're gonna have to go back to use our degree finder this way. I'm gonna double check it with the actual protractor, and I just did that. And for the way our jig is set up here, I'm reading roughly about 69 degrees, and I marked it. I actually marked it with my little arrow right here on the bottom, so just so I can keep my position. Then just to double check it, I'm actually going off my protractor here and squaring it up to the flat face. And that one's reading about 69 degrees as well. So yeah, so I'm gonna do it that way. The digital one's a lot easier because I could have actually set this as my 0. That way I have to just match my 0. So it would have been a lot easier, but who knows where it's at. Maybe if I find it, I'll show you guys later on in the video. About 69 degrees right there. Double check it. It's about 68 and a half, so we're off a little bit. Next thing I'm gonna do is I got it roughed in roughly where it's at. I just gotta measure from left and right, make sure that the bracket's gonna be centered up. Once I get the left and right measurement, like dialed, then I'll go ahead and double check this again, get the first tack on here, then we're golden. So now I went ahead and added on my little spacers right here. And this is just an 1.25 inch difference. We had about a 1/2 inch gap here. That way we can get it up there, and I have a little bit of play between the air cylinder. That way I can rotate it, get it centered up perfect. Let's go ahead and add air to it now. So right here, it pushes it right up against the bracket. So the nice thing with the extensions on there is if I close this valve, it holds its air, but if I release a little bit of air out of it, I can actually come in and tap this down, just so I have a little play on here so I can rotate it. I can rotate it, I can get the degree right, I can make sure that I'm centered up from edge bracket to here, edge flange to here, and make sure we're all good. So I came across something real quick. So I'm here at my 69 degrees. I'm squared up from left and right. Then we have my bracket, 2 3/4. Checking levelness here. We're at a 0. Yeah, we're right at a 0. I just checked it with the other bracket as well. All right, the other level, we're at 0. The issue I'm running across is this bracket fits perfect. This bracket has a 1/4 inch gap on one side. So I'm gonna actually fix that bracket real quick. I'm gonna show you guys what I was talking about when I was saying the brackets are a little off. You can see fitment is pretty dang good right here. Got a little gap on the backside, but that's nothing you can't fill. This one's pretty dang good too, but this one, there's a huge gap. You can tell it's bottoming out on this corner and back there. So it's not a big issue. I mean, they probably don't bend these brackets themselves, so they can't really check them very often, but it's something we can fix real quick. We're just gonna take this one off. We're gonna grind this down a little bit. All we gotta do is really take off this edge here and take off this back edge back here to see if we could get this fitment better. If there's a little gap, that's not a big deal. I'm gonna weld both sides anyway, so I'm gonna fill it and get this thing dialed in. But just gotta correct that real quick. And again, I checked levelness of this, thinking that maybe this wasn't level or I had it crooked, but my degree was right here. My measurement from left and right is here, and we're just gonna get this guy fixed now. So it's gonna take me a few minutes to get that guy dialed in. So this side's still fitting pretty decent over here. Took about 2 grinds to get this to fit good. Right there. So perfect, we're all dialed in now. Now we gotta get it all squared out. Make sure that we're at the correct angle. Make sure my distance from left and right is centered, and we're good. Even though there's a little hiccup on the bracket, which is really no big deal. It's you know, I spent about 5-6 minutes on grinding it, fixing it, but in the end, it still saved me 45 to an hour and a half of actually creating the new brackets. So either way, it's still a win-win. Now I just gotta get these guys centered up, tacked up, and ready to go. Got all the brackets welded up, and I kept the welding pattern exactly like a stock pattern. Welded on the sides, gap here open, top side and back side. So I kept it just like stock. You guys can see there. Burned it in nice and clean. And we also did the insides as well. I don't know if you can see it, it's kind of dark. With those now done, you can see it's a little hot in here. With those all done now, we're gonna get this guy situated and get the top wishbone bracket on. So we gotta find center of the actual rear end. And this is something that a lot of people mess up on. And I'm gonna show you guys what. I went ahead and cleared the table off real quick. I took off the jig. We're gonna get the housing up here by itself. The funny part is, when I was welding, I smelled something a little funny. It was like, it smells like burnt wood or burnt paper. Well, I found the invoice. Or the pick, look at, burned a hole right through it. I was like, they shoved it in the actual, the housing. Didn't know it was in there. Found it. Look at the table cleared off. Let me make some space real quick. Get it all wiped down. All right, let's get this housing back up here. So what I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna get center of this, but first before I do that, I'm gonna actually jig up my center bracket for the actual wishbone itself. I like doing it while it's all together. I find it just a lot easier to get it all squared up. So this guy. Get a bracket on here. To me, this is just a lot quicker, a lot cleaner. I get better welds on it, so we're gonna do it this way. So these are my. You can see that's this is factory bracket or factory bushing. The difference between here and here is the rubber, the polyurethane. So we have metal sleeves that we machined up that we use to keep everything all squared up when we weld and jig stuff up. So to me, this is just the quickest and easiest way. It's easy because my table is nice and level. Get 4 little tacks on it. And I'm gonna weld up the inside real quick. All right, inside's all welded up. Now for the outside, actually I'm gonna leave that for right now. I'll weld it once I get it all on the rear end. And this is the reason why we like doing this. It's a little high, you can see my glove smoking. Let's see how smooth it is, even after we welded it. This gives us a good starting point for our wishbone. So what I was talking about where a lot of people mess up at, I'm gonna show you guys something real quick. Obviously you see, you got your flange, your driver's side flange, passenger side flange, you got your pumpkin in the back. A lot of guys are gonna make the mistake and go, oh, yep, this looks about center here. Now they'll go and measure this, you know, from here to get center of the housing. Wrong. I say that is because this actually doesn't sit perfectly centered, and I'm gonna show you guys. So I'm gonna show you guys just by doing some quick measurements real quick. Again, I'm just doing this for educational purposes so you guys can see, you guys can understand. We're just gonna measure out center of the weld to here. We're at 7.5. So I'm measuring from here to here. 7.5, 7.5. So it's telling us that this is the same, this is the same. We're at center of the weld, 4 3/8. So you know it's 4 3/8, 7.5, 7.5. You know that this is like a perfect shape. We're gonna go from edge of the flange to center of the weld, 16.5. And this is where it's gonna change. Outside the flange to center of the weld, 18.5. Notice that? 2-inch difference. 16.5. And roughly 18.5. So we know the center is the same, but obviously here, the shaft sizes for the axles are different. And that's where everybody makes the mistake and messes up. I've seen cars come in with rear ends literally an inch or two off. And don't get me wrong, I've actually done it before. And that's the reason I know this, because I messed up a long time ago and I learned from my lesson. So now I always check the rear ends no matter what. Even if they look like they're centered, I always check my overall measurement. And obviously you want the car to be centered, the rear end to be centered in between the frame rails, in between the body. So if you offset this and you put it, well, to center of the pumpkin, it's wrong. You gotta go center of the overall. So we're gonna get that measurement right now and we're gonna find it, and we're gonna base it off of our, you know, eyeball center, what would look like center versus true center. So here's exactly what I was talking about, guys. We measured out center, but visually, this looks roughly right about center, right? But if you notice the line up here, that is true center. So we went ahead and measured from outside flange to center, outside flange to center, and this is what we came up with. It was actually 26.0625 to be 100% exact. That was dead center. Now what we do is we just can't go off of this. Again, a lot of guys make this mistake and they go off of the center of what looks like to be the center of the housing, but the housing actually sits offset on these cars. So you got to make sure that you actually find the true, which this is true. Again, that was and this is based off of these measurements for this rear end. So don't use these measurements for your guys' car, because this is based off of this rear end itself. So 26.0625 was my center mark. What I did here was I got my center mark of my actual bracket. So this guy is gonna sit roughly about here. And again, we're gonna get this all squared up and measured up as well. But if you guys notice, the bracket kind of rocks a little bit. So what I did here, show you guys a little trick, is buy yourself a little cheap protractor on Amazon. That's what we did. Here you go. Get your measurement, line it up there, and then transfer that to your bracket, and that's how you're going to get the difference. And the reason I like to trim or weld these up is that way I could get these exactly the same on both sides. Go ahead and get this guy grinded up real quick to get the shape of it so it fits on there, and then I'll get you guys the next step. I got it all grinded up. You can see that fit is a lot better than it rocking, because before, see that gap difference? It was pretty much rocking on that little point right there, on that ridge. So we went ahead and grinded it and got it to fit a lot better in there. But now the issue is, see where my center line is? I gotta get this guy over here. but this weld is in the way. So what I'm going to do is actually grind down this weld to where it's flush. I marked out to where the bracket ends because I don't want to take off too much. I'm just going to flush this out because we're going to be re-welding it anyways. Now with that section of the weld all grinded down, that way it's all flushed out, I can scoot this over here, get my center mark, and you can see that's a clean fitment there now. So here what I did is I make sure I was all squared up. As you can see, we're all nice and square. Then second thing is I gotta level up on the top side and make sure I'm all leveled out. That way when you're visually looking at it and this thing locks up, this thing doesn't look all cockeyed and retarded and dumb. So that's all good. Now we're gonna get this guy all buzzed up all the way around and start doing the insides as well. Oh, you can see this thing is smoking. Got it all welded up, it's all done. Last thing you do is just clean up the little boogers off of it. Call it a day, get it shipped up to the customer. So I'm gonna show you guys real quick the final product of it, and then obviously the welds and everything. So let me take you to that. Here's the final product all done. As you can see, we welded on the rear lower brackets using our jig. Got that all centered up, squared up. Then we got the wishbone bracket up in place. And what I did is I just actually, because our brackets are three-sided, I just rounded the edges, molded it just to make it look like these ones. That way when they chrome it or paint it or powder coat it, it looks all matching and cohesive. So here's our welds, there's Curry welds. Nice and clean, very simple. Nothing over the top or crazy, just a really clean, simple job, all measured out, ready to go. I showed in this video, our measurements could be different than your guys' measurements. I'm basing all the measurements off of what I have in front of me, and I expect you guys to kind of do the same thing. Don't go off of our measurements and expect it to be centered up or squared up, because if you don't have the same exact rear end, the same exact brackets, same exact tabs, then it might be different. So please make sure you guys are measuring out what you guys are doing. Double check, triple check. In this video you'll see me with the tape measure, with the level, with the angle finder, with the protractor. I'm using a whole bunch of different tools, and I use them in different variations in order to get this guy centered up, squared, and done. So make sure you guys do the same thing. If you guys need some of the tools that we use, I actually have a link down below with all of the Amazon shop with all the tools that we use. Not all of them, but a lot of the common ones that you see on there. So I get a lot of guys asking me what we use or what's best for this, or what hole saw do you use. Everything is down below in the Amazon link. Guys, check it out. Thank you guys for liking, sharing, subscribing. If you guys are new, make sure you guys hit that bell notification and the subscribe button. If you guys are returning followers, thank you guys again. My name's Alex, I'm from Hoppos, and I'm out.
Look at the car, you know who did it, I don't have to mention. They know it's Alex from Hoppos, 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 Hoppos. Custom work come from Hoppos, Hoppos, Hoppos. I'm Rob Taylor 504, for anybody that gotta know.